another commit.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day, and we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on today's mini podcast, we are going to talk about Syracuse football's newest commit in the class of 2026, and that is Steven Pickard from IMG Academy. We're going to talk about his bio, his scouting report, and then at the end, I will give you guys an update in Syracuse football recruiting in general, a breakdown of the 2026 recruiting class. So let's get into Steven Pickard right now. As I just mentioned, he is the 8th commit for the Orange so far in 2026. He plays offensive line, and he is listed at 6'5", 300 pounds per 24/7 Sports. That is ideal size for an offensive lineman that is going to be coming into college football. 6'5", 300 pounds. Plays at IMG Academy. That is a powerhouse national program for those that don't know. For pretty much any sport that you can think of, they are exceptional at. However, it should be noted about Steven Pickard that he's got plenty of connections to Syracuse. He was actually born in Syracuse, and he currently has family up in Syracuse. So even though he's playing down in Florida, he's got plenty of ties to Syracuse. He visited the Orange over the weekend, and he committed sight unseen. So congratulations to Pickard there. Here's what he said about the program to 24/7 Sports' Mike McAllister, and it's along the lines of the fact that he's always had a connection with Syracuse, the fact that he was born there. He said, quote, "Cuse has always been my home in my heart, and I love Coach Brown's leadership. I believe in what he is doing, and I want to help Syracuse win a national championship." It's really the first part that gets my attention. I mean, obviously, he believes in Coach Brown. He committed to him, and obviously, he wants to win a national championship. I mean, who doesn't? But it's the first part that grabs my attention. He feels at home. When I've had on Brian Smith from Locked On, recruiting expert, a lot of times he'll tell you that these athletes will commit based on comfort, based on feel, based on that feeling of being at home. And Steven Pickard, he's from Syracuse. He's got family in Syracuse, so he's very familiar with the area. And so it makes sense that ultimately he ends up with the Orange. As far as a scouting report and other schools that were involved on Steven Pickard, I'll get to the other schools in just a moment. But according to Pickard himself, he can play every position on the offensive line. So that could be center, he could play guard, he could be tackle. That's solid. You really want versatility with your offensive lineman because you never quite know how an offensive lineman is going to pan out at any particular position. So it's important that he can play all three. So that's certainly helpful. And as far as the other schools that were involved on Steven Pickard, I would say this is a solid recruiting win. Because here are some schools that showed interest per 24/7 Sports. You got Duke, you got Boston College, you got Georgia Tech, you got Virginia. So those are 4 ACC programs. Those are programs that you're going to be competing with on a year in and year out basis to get the best players around the country, right? Then you also got Maryland, South Carolina, and UCF. Those are 3 Power 4 programs. So overall, I mean, that's a solid recruiting win. You got him over several ACC schools. You got him over a few Power 4 conference programs as well. A nice job by this staff getting Steven Pickard home to Syracuse, all right? I'm Jackson Holzer. This is Locked On Syracuse. Steven Pickard becomes the Orange's 8th verbal commit in the class of 2026. And coming up, I will give you guys a breakdown of the class of 2026. So stick with me here on Locked On Syracuse. This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back. And then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. This is taxes. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game. Chiefs, Eagles, the matchup that everyone certainly wanted. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Here's where 2026 Syracuse football recruiting stands right now. The Orange, according to 24/7 Sports, have the 15th highest rated recruiting class in the country. So again, it's off to a strong start. Certainly. It's great to be in the top 15 right now. Will it stay that way? Who knows? There's still a whole entire offseason to go. But it's a good start nonetheless. They have 8 total commits, which is tied for 5th in the country. And as I talked about, I think in the last recruiting update that I did for you all, I think that the Orange are once again going to take a really big number of recruits. They took 35 in last year's cycle. I would not be surprised if they're over 30 once again at the pace they are currently at right now. Here's a breakdown of the recruiting, okay? I've seen some comments on these podcasts about Syracuse football needs to recruit the trenches. Well, I got some good news for you all. As far as the offensive line is concerned, 3 of Syracuse's 8 commits are on the line. Javeion Cooper is a composite 4-star commit to the Orange right now. So he's their best one, or highest rated, I should say. Then you also got Jojo White and Steven Pickard. So 3 of the 8 are on the offensive line. That's a good start. As far as positions that they haven't covered yet, there's no defensive line or quarterback yet in the class. So speaking of the trenches, it's all on the offensive line so far. They haven't gotten a defensive lineman. That is certainly going to change. And as far as quarterbacks, you might be asking or wondering, why would Syracuse recruit a 2026 quarterback when the guy on their roster right now could emerge? Here's the deal. Even if a quarterback on their roster next season wins the Heisman Trophy, I mean, it's not going to happen, but let's say someone wins the Heisman Trophy, right? Like, it would be amazing. You still want to recruit a quarterback in 2026. No matter what, you always want to keep that pipeline going. Think about it this way. I mean, LSU, with all their Heisman quarterbacks and elite quarterbacks they've had over the years, it's not like they stopped recruiting, right? So I imagine that the Orange are going to take a quarterback in the class of 2026. Who it is, I'm not exactly sure, but they still have to fill that position of need in recruiting. Other than that, they're pretty balanced. They're pretty balanced recruiting overall with their 8 commits. I mean, they got 2 receivers, BJ Garrett and Phoenix Henriquez. They have a running back in Deontay Sheffy. They have a defensive back in Jackson Gates. They also have a linebacker. I know he's listed as a wide receiver on 24/7 Sports. It's Maurice Medley, but they recruited him as a defender. He plays linebacker also in high school, which is why I think Maurice Medley would be a linebacker at Syracuse at the next level. Although Maurice Medley, he recently got an offer from Florida State, so let's keep an eye on that. So overall, though, all things considered, Steven Pickard becomes the Orange's 8th commit. The Orange have a pretty balanced recruiting class so far in terms of positions of need. Not really positions of need, in terms of positions filled already. Still got to get D-line, still got to get quarterback. And overall, I think they're on track to take another deep high school recruiting class in 2026. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below on everything that we talked about here on this podcast. As far as what's coming up on the podcast in the future, tonight we got a full podcast for you all talking about the top quarterbacks that Syracuse football is facing in 2025. Plus, tomorrow, Syracuse football scheduled is going to be revealed tonight. So tomorrow, it'll be a full podcast about the Orange's schedule, some of the big takeaways from it as far as the timing of the games, the bye weeks, and everything you need to know about that. So that's what's coming up on the podcast in the future. Thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen today. And for your second listen, you can check out the Locked On ACC podcast. Alex Donald and Kenton Gibbs, they keep it real and bring you the truth about where your favorite ACC team stands within the conference. Find Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy the podcast, be sure to hit subscribe. Tell all your friends about Locked On Syracuse so this channel can grow and reach all Syracuse Orange fans. And I will see you all later tonight